Welcome to Manhwa Toon Recap channel, your go-to spot for epic manhwa recaps. Join me as we dive into thrilling battles, unexpected twists, and unforgettable moments from the best manhwa out there. New stories every week, so subscribe and let's explore this amazing world together. Now let's go into the video. We've all heard the stories about Vikings and barbarians. They're the ultimate warriors who put their pride as fighters above everything else and will do whatever it takes to stick to their beliefs. That's exactly what's going down in this scene. The brute with bloodshot eyes is a proud barbarian, battling to the death against his own clan members after being betrayed. Cornered on the edge of a cliff, his main goal now is to protect his family and he's ready to give his life for them. He shouts to his wife, Evelyn, to prepare the spell while he buys them some time. She quickly acknowledges him. And by her side is their only son, Aiden, whom they're both trying to protect. The boy is left in awe to see his father fight as the most honorable warrior, battling to the end for his family and his honor. Suddenly, his father is pierced by a bunch of spears at once, leaving him coughing up blood, which makes Aiden exclaim in shock for his father. But this man is one hell of a warrior. He swings his weapon like it's nothing, cutting down everyone in his path like vegetables, and he isn't even breaking a sweat. Meanwhile, his wife begins her spell. A blue light quickly descends from the skies, and that light starts to lift Aiden up with it. His mother wishes him that wherever this star takes him to, it'll be better than here. She begs him to please survive. Aiden is terrified of the unknown and refuses to go, but his father quickly calls out to him in order to spark his warrior spirit. He reminds Aiden to become stronger, strong enough to lose nothing, strong enough that no one can touch him and to make sure he survives. Tears stream down Aiden's face as he agrees to what his father said. Watching his dad fight without fear, even in the face of death, fills him with pride and makes him want to be a barbarian like his father. The next scene takes us into the back alleys of a city where a bunch of thugs are grinning widely, ready to make their first victim after the entrance exam. Their target is a rich and nerdy brat they've got their sights set on. They demand that he take off his bag and hand over his shiny watch. This kid is Kim Jin-tae, a third year at GNL High School, and he definitely fits the silver spoon stereotype. Jin-tae tries to stand his ground, refusing to give them anything. He warns them that it could lead to big trouble later, but the thugs just laugh and remind him that trouble is already staring him in the face. They scoff and act tough while Jin-tae does his best to smack some sense into these fools. He tries to remind them that his friends will be arriving soon and that it would be a real hassle for them, but these guys are not here to take any crap. One of the thugs grabs Jin-tae by its head in order to slap him hard. But right that very moment, the bastard gets a crushing blow right into its ribs, which knocks him out for good. The thugs freak out as a blow suddenly comes crashing through the wall. The guy who made that hole calls out to his friend Jin-tae to see if he's okay. This dude is huge and jacked with those same bloodshot eyes we've seen before. It wouldn't be surprising if he is Aiden, but for now, he goes by Kong Cheol-do, a third-year student at John Il High School. Those tough guys who were just acting big are now shaking in their boots, asking what the hell he is and how he punched through the wall. Kong grabs one of the puny punks by the collar, hoists him up, balls up his fist, and delivers a brutal smackdown, showing off that barbarian-level energy. After that, both friends walk side by side, and Jin-tae praises him for being amazing as always. He jokes that this time, Kong even pushed the boundaries by punching through the wall. This insane display of power sometimes makes Jin-tae wonder if his friend is even human. Kong gets startled by the compliment and starts feeling uncomfortable. He nervously confirms that he's just a regular human. Well, technically, he's an alien since he traveled from another world to this place called Earth, and it's been 10 years since he arrived here. Jin-tae keeps saying that sometimes Kong gives off vibes like he's not from this world. This isn't the first time Kong has heard it. His old friend is always suspicious of him, which makes Kong wonder if he's showing signs of being a barbarian. Later, we see a stack of empty rice bowls, and this is the sixth one Kong is tackling right now. Eating more than 6 bowls at a time isn't exactly normal, but still, his grandpa is starting to get concerned about why Kong is eating so little. Kong just says he hasn't had much of an appetite lately. He then asked his grandpa why he isn't eating, and the old man replies that he's gotten old. So digestion isn't easy anymore. Just watching Kong put away copious amounts of food is enough to make him feel full. This scrawny old man with a big bright smile is the most dear person to Kong. He's the one who took in a barbaric boy with nowhere to go and raised him without asking for anything in return. The old man then remembers that he got a call from Manager Park, so he asks Kong if he's made up his mind about becoming a boxer. Kong responds that he doesn't want to be an athlete. His grandpa asks why he feels that way, reminding him that he's won every single tournament he's entered. So it would be a waste to throw away all that athletic potential. Well, that can't be helped since, after all, barbarians and humans are completely different species, or at least that's what Kong thinks. He had participated in sports before, but to him, it felt like cheating. He was literally way ahead of everyone, and that just went against the spirit of fair play in his opinion. Kong doesn't want to let his grandpa down, but as much as he hates to admit it, he believes there's only one path for a barbarian, and that's to be a warrior. It's totally different from the sports that humans play. For him, bloody battles against worthy opponents are the only thing a barbarian is fit for. Of course, he doesn't say anything about his origin out loud to his grandfather. It's just something he thinks to himself. Even so, even if he wanted to become a warrior, this damn earth is too peaceful for him to find the kind of fights that would let him prove himself in battle. The old man looks worried when he sees some saddening news on the TV. Apparently, there's been some kind of unidentified disaster in Cheongju, and officials are trying to figure out what caused it. Kong asks what happened, and the old man reveals that there's been an accident in Cheongju with over 120 casualties, something about a monster appearing. They even show some footage of this unidentified lifeform spotted in the area, so the government is advising caution. The news visibly makes Kang's nerves twitch, and he starts heading out, prompting the old man to express his concern. But Kong makes it clear that he's got to step out for a bit and will be back as soon as he can. With that, he departs for the place where the incident happened, and his friend, Jin-tae, is the one taking him to the crime scene. It looks like Jin-tae isn't feeling too confident driving his new vehicle right after getting his license, but Kong thanks him for the ride. As they drive, Kong can't help but think about that monster he saw on TV. He realizes that this creature is the same one he remembers seeing as a child, and somewhere in the back of his mind, he feels like this animal might be connected to the world he used to live in. Suddenly, they slam on their brakes right at the entrance of a tunnel where the entire traffic is jam-packed. Jin-tae knew there was a disaster, but seeing the thick layer of concern in the air makes the atmosphere feel tenser than he thought. There are even soldiers present. Out of nowhere, two sassy officers start chatting about Kang's jacked-up body, snickering as they ask which group he belongs to. The officers from New Song Development Corporation Limited invite Kong to join their company if he doesn't belong to any group. They say if he's interested, he can be part of their team. Kong takes the business card and asks if this is some kind of guild where warriors gather. The officer bursts out laughing, clearly amused by Kang's weird analogy. He reminds Kong that they need to colonize planets, so they're more like workers than warriors. He insists that joining their group would be a decision he wouldn't regret. Kong acknowledges this, but turns the both officers down, reminding them that he's a warrior, not an officer, and that being a worker would be a disgrace for someone like him. This remark infuriates the officer because he feels like Kong is looking down on them. Kong gets equally fired up and calls them out for looking down on a warrior too. But before their argument can escalate, dark purple matter begins to appear. And one of the soldiers states that it's starting, so they should get ready. They tell each other to gather around. A big system window flashes, announcing that the apocalypse trial is about to begin, leaving Kong confused. Another notification pops up stating that the end of the world is approaching Earth and that the sanctuary planet Nova is extending a helping hand to Earth's inhabitants. The system advises them to escape to Nova through the portal. Kong, of course, has no clue what the hell is going on, and he doesn't have time to figure anything out because whatever is happening is moving way too fast. In an instant, that purple energy teleports them somewhere else. At first glance, the place looks quite serene while Jin-tae is freaking out. He starts blaming Kong for dragging him into this mess, yelling and cursing at him while punching Kang's hard body to blow off some frustration. But right at that moment, a system window pops up in front of Jin-tae's eyes, saying that their first objective is to obtain 1 goblin coin, and the reward will be novice class advancement. Not surprisingly, Jin-tae has no clue what any of this means. That's when Kong spots some goblins nearby, and these disgusting creatures quickly start drooling at the sight of what looks like dinner for the night. Jin-tae is totally freaked out to see these unknown monsters in front of him. And what's even more mind-boggling is that he's supposed to hunt them. Kong, on the other hand, rushes forward with full throttle toward the goblins. His body is moving on its own, driven by his warrior instincts, which are screaming at him to crush these monsters. The time he's been waiting for has finally arrived, and he's going absolutely bonkers at the thought of finally getting to smash some heads. He's desperate to see just how strong he really is. He makes a beeline toward the goblins so fast that he literally destroys everything in his path. All his inner barbarian instincts are telling him that no matter the apocalypse or whatever else is happening, he's ready to take it all head on because this is finally his chance. Kong swings his punches, taking down goblins left and right, while Jin-tae is left with his jaw hanging open, wondering if he just watched his friend take out 3 monsters in the blink of an eye. As soon as the goblins drop dead, they start to pixelate like a hologram, and once they vanish, a coin appears. The system then reveals that Nova's basic currency is goblin coins. It also mentions that the end times exam exclusive currency is non-transferable. The coin hovers right between Kang's palms, and he recognizes that it looks just like the goblin coin the system was talking about earlier. As soon as the coin drops into his hands, another system notification pops up stating that he has earned the right to become a citizen of Nova and can now cross the portal to enter. Jin-tae wonders again what the system is talking about, but Kong doesn't dwell on it. He looks around and spots the portal behind him and realizes that the thing floating over there must be the thing the system is talking about. Later, we see Jin-tae's face totally banged up, and he's holding a wooden club in his hand, yelling at Kong once again for throwing him into this mess. Apparently, Jin-tae has to hunt goblins by himself to enter that place called Nova. Kong reminds him that he can't transfer the coins to others, meaning he has to earn them on his own. Just as they're arguing about it, a monster leaps from its place toward Jin-tae. But before the goblin can do any damage, Kong casually steps over the ugly creature, reminding his friend that fighting these monsters is the only way to earn the coins. He reassures Jin-tae that he won't let him die here, especially since Tae got caught up in this because of him. After a while, they finally complete the quest, but Jin-tae's face looks sour than a lemon. At least he's relieved that the session of suffering has finally come to an end. In the next scene, we see a pair of binoculars peeking through the bushes and a voice asks the sergeant if the duffel bag over there belongs to them. The sergeant confirms it, saying those sneaky little goblins must have stolen it. With that, they decide to kill all the goblins. Meanwhile, Kong has the same duffel bag those goblins were carrying. As he rummages through it, he realizes there's a lot of useful stuff inside, including combat rations, so they don't have to worry about going hungry. Just then, a gun barrel is aimed right at Kong and the soldiers shout for the goblin to die. But as soon as reality sinks in, they simmer down when they realize it's just a human. Jin-tae quickly raises his hands in the air and says he's human, begging them to spare his life. Later, they all sit down for a meal together, and the soldiers apologize for earlier, saying they were so caught up in the moment that they thought Kong was a goblin. They're relieved to see there are more people around. They ask if it's just the two of them and how they've been surviving completely unarmed. Jin-tae explains that they ended up here without knowing what kind of place this was. He then asks the soldiers if they're also participating in this end times exam and if everything in the status window must be true. The soldier confirms it, saying the government is preparing for the end times too. The planet Nova, where humans will supposedly migrate, is practically in the Stone Age, so they need to work together to build villages. Forward-thinking companies and organizations are also jumping into Nova's development to prepare for this new era, and a competition unknown to the general public has already begun behind the scenes. Kong asks if Nova has a lot of monsters like the ones they saw earlier. The soldier explains that this place is like a testing ground, while Nova is the main stage. So training here is crucial, and Nova will be even more challenging. Jin-tae then hands over the duffel bag and apologizes for taking it. The soldier reassures him that they've got plenty of other supplies, so there's no need to worry. It should have enough food and weapons for everyone. Meanwhile, Kang's gotten quite interested in this place called Nova, especially now that he knows it's supposed to be even tougher. A smirk spreads across his face because he now has more chances to flex those big muscles. He even decides to go out for more hunting even though he's already passed the test. Later that night, as they push through thick grass, Jin-tae struggles to keep moving forward, while Kong strolls along as if it's just a casual walk. Jin-tae asks why they're hunting more when they've already passed the test. Kong replies that after hearing what the soldiers said, they can't just sit around, they've got to level up faster. At that moment, they spot a high-level goblin perched on top of a tower looking like it's up to some magical business. Jin-tae is bewildered to see what the heck this thing is because it doesn't look like any of the goblins they've seen before. But Kong is grinning widely because this is exactly what he was looking for. He'd heard some weird noises, followed them, and bam, he's found his next target. With a burst of godly speed, he leaps from his spot while Jin-tae warns him about the danger he's about to face. Kong just grins maniacally and says that the more dangerous it is, the better. He charges toward the tower, wielding a frying pan in hand. The nearby goblins notice him, but they're quickly taken out with a single swing of his pan. The mage goblin atop the tower spots the chaos below and sees a jacked-up human climbing up like King Kong. There's no end to Kang's excitement. He's practically radiating an ominous killing aura. With each step he takes forward, his enthusiasm skyrockets even more. The old goblin growls in frustration as he watches Kong charge forward. In a flash, he summons lightning from the sky, zapping the hell out of our boy. Jin-tae goes absolutely nuts, panicking as he sees his friend getting fried, while the old goblin grins wickedly, thinking he's finally got the upper hand. But that grin quickly fades when he realizes that this maniac of a human is still grinning with excitement even after being zapped. In fact, Kong looks totally turned on. Annoyed and a bit freaked out, the old goblin unleashes another bolt of lightning straight at him. Yet, this amount of electricity isn't enough to wipe the smile off Kang's face. He can feel the electricity running down his spine, but he endures it easily. You see, not only is he the son of a barbarian, but his mother was also a powerful shaman, giving him an edge that the goblin clearly underestimated. With his feet planted firmly, Kong takes a massive leap, pan in hand, descending like a goddamn meteor straight at the goblin mage. He crashes down with explosive force, obliterating not just the goblin, but the entire tower, turning it into rubble. As debris rains down, we see him lying in the middle, burned to a crisp, yet that wild grin still plastered across his face. He then reveals that he's standing strong, thanks to the magical resistance he inherited from his shaman mother. As the dust settles, goblin coins begin to materialize around him. But this time, it's not only the coins as there is also something else. A system window promptly appears, revealing that he has also acquired a mana orb. This mana orb grants him a permanent small amount of mana and can be activated with 10 goblin coins, and this is exclusive to the Doomsday Trial. In short, he now possesses the ability to gain mana like a true shaman. The orb starts sinking into his chest, and this yellow light wraps around him, washing away all the burn marks he had on his body. The power surging inside him is so insane that he feels like all his previous efforts were totally pointless in comparison. Right then, his friend comes running over completely concerned, but his worry turns to shock when he sees him standing there totally fine even after getting hit by lightning. Jin-tae, as usual, asks if he's even human. Our guy goes quiet and calls out to his friend. Kang's sudden shift in tone makes Jin-tae worry, and he asks if he's hurt or if something's wrong. But contrary to what Jin-tae thinks, this guy just wants to hunt even more. He tells his friend they need to find the next hunting ground quickly, especially because he wants to take down those shaman bastards who dropped these orbs. Of course, poor Jin-tae is freaking out about all this, and he begs him to just stop with the crazy talk. Later, they set up camp to spend the night. And once the next day arrives, Jin-tae wakes up, and the first thing he sees is a pleasant smile over our boy's face who is holding 3 orbs in his hand. It turns out our maniac spent the entire night grinding and collecting these orbs. He goes absolutely bonkers when he reveals to his friend that he got orbs for strength and perception this time, and he's literally dying to test them out. It seems like all of this is really getting to him, and now he wants to become even stronger. The next system window pops up showing that 12 hours have passed in the Doomsday Trial, and field bosses are starting to appear in the trial area. Jin-tae wonders what kind of field bosses the system is talking about. The system clears up his confusion by revealing that these bosses are formidable enemies that novice players shouldn't face, and it's highly recommended to escape as quickly as possible. This totally freaks Jin-tae out as usual, and he decides to escape through the portal as soon as possible. But once again, my guy is just completely hyped about the prospect of facing them, and his excitement keeps building while poor Jin-tae feels like he's on a hell ride. The next scene transitions to the beginner's testing ground field boss, Ogre Jr. There, we see a giant monster, and two soldiers we have seen before are trying to aim their guns, but the monster is just too tall. The soldiers start blasting away with a barrage of bullets, focusing on the hand holding the club. But as they continue to shower this monster with insane amounts of firepower, it looks like the bullets are doing absolutely nothing, and the soldiers are screwed. Finally, the club that the monster is holding comes crashing down. But before one of the soldiers can find himself crushed, our guy punches the club with such force that it literally gets demolished. My guy rocks while the soldiers are shocked. He stands tall in front of this oversized ugly goblin, ready to take him down. He tells everyone to stand back because he wants to obliterate this monster, and he doesn't want anyone getting hurt. He charges in like a raging bull and hits the monster, but the creature quickly blocks his attack and absorbs the impact. This leaves our guy bewildered because it feels like he's hitting hard steel instead of flesh. The monster retaliates with a punch of its own, sending our guy flying backward. He crashes so hard into the ground that he literally drills into it with the impact. Jin-tae is left with his jaw hanging, seeing that his iron-headed friend is finally being overpowered, which is pretty concerning. The soldiers are also amazed that our boy survived that punch. Considering field bosses aren't meant to be easy prey, you'd need to be at least on par with a tank to stand a chance against them. Kong is finally feeling the heat and knows it's not going to be as easy as those goblin shamans he defeated earlier. The monster throws yet another strike, but our guy barely dodges it by stepping to the side. The creature starts throwing punches with some insane speed, but our boy just keeps dodging them. This monster is pretty dumb and its attacks are easy to predict, so Kong decides to use the creature's own strength against it. As soon as the monster swings a punch, Kong ducks out of the way, grabs the monster's hand, and uses its momentum to swing it around, delivering a solid slam dunk. He then balls up his fist and launches himself into the air, landing a crushing blow right into the monster's mouth, obliterating all of its teeth in one swing. The monster's face is now a bloody mess, but Kong doesn't stop there. He keeps pounding the hell out of this bastard's face like it's the best punching bag ever. Each hit is more thrilling than the last, and he just keeps going, unleashing a relentless barrage on the monster. The soldiers start trembling in anxiety and shock as they watch this guy literally pound the hell out of the monster barehanded. Once the poor ogre is down for the count, Kong bursts into a little happy dance after finally defeating a monster stronger than him. The poor bastard whimpers and begins to pixelate after getting defeated, and out pops a black orb, which is kind of surprising. Kong picks it up and wonders what kind of abilities this orb might give him. When he checks the stats over his system, what he sees leaves him totally speechless, making us even more curious about what this thing can do. Later, we find ourselves at the portal location. Our duo and the other two soldiers are there as well, and the soldiers thank Kong for saving them. But our boy just plays it cool, saying it was nothing and that he fought just because he wanted to. The soldiers give him a tip that before he heads to Nova, he should buy as many items as possible from the shop because you can't take anything to Nova that doesn't belong to the shop. In the direction the soldier is pointing is a little hut where a peddler goblin is casually puffing away on his pipe. The peddler gives them a sharp and confident look, telling them to just take a look and see what they might like. Both of our boys are quite surprised to see a talking goblin while the two soldiers decide to leave since they need to go report back now. Jin-tae swipes his tongue around his lips and reminds his friend that they have plenty of coins, asking what they should do. Our guy suddenly gets serious and reminds Jin-tae that he already knows the answer. With that, both maniacs stack up a huge load of weapons. And after literally buying everything from the shop, they head toward their next destination, grinning from ear to ear. The system promptly reminds them that all the conditions for heading to Nova have been met, and the portal is now open to them. A purple beam shoots toward them, and Jin-tae feels thrilled at the chance to head to another planet. He asks his friend if he's not nervous at all, but Kong just flashes a big grin and tells his friend that contrary to being nervous, he's literally excited to the point that he might explode. With that, the arcane purple light envelopes them. And after landing on this new planet, the first thing they notice is that it has two moons. Down on the cliff, there are shimmering lights, making Jin-tae believe that those lights must be where people are gathered. He decides they should head down there too. That's when our steel-headed friend gets serious again, saying they've got a serious problem. And by now, whenever he makes that serious face, you know he's about to say something ridiculous. As expected, this time is no different. He's just starving. Well, this time it looks like the situation is actually serious because Jin-tae is literally sweating his balls to hear this. You see, whenever Kang gets hungry, he turns into a wild beast. To make matters worse, it's going to take them at least half a day to walk to the tent village. Right at that moment, a sweet voice from an elegant lady grabs their attention as she asks if they've just arrived on Nova. She offers to help them in any way they need. While the glasses guy stands there with his jaw dropped, ogling her beautiful figure, Kang just stands like a Sigma with little to no expression on his face. Jin-tae then asks her if there's anywhere nearby where they might find some food since they just dropped here with nothing. Not gonna lie. This lady looks pretty suspicious, and she points out that even though they claim to be empty-handed, they don't seem to be empty-handed at all. Anyhow, she tells them to follow her because in these end times, they've got to help each other out, and she knows a good spot for finding ingredients. Both boys perk up in happiness, but their sources of joy are different. Jin-tae is excited to be following a hot chick, while Kang is just looking forward to some delicious food. As they follow her, she points in a certain direction, telling them they've arrived. It turns out to be a fish pond, and Jin-tae quickly squats down and starts rummaging through his stuff to make fishing rods with what they bought at the store. The lady, on the other hand, tells them to go ahead and make the fishing rods while she goes to grab the bait she left over there. The two of them start preparing their fishing rods, and they don't seem to suspect her at all. In fact, they feel grateful to have met such a nice person. As time ticks by, Kang is getting impatient and can hardly contain his urge for food. His friend assures him that it's almost done and that they're going to have some delicious food soon. The system promptly notifies Jin-tae that he has successfully crafted a crude fishing rod and unlocked a crafting skill, but it looks like it's already too late because Kang has finally gone berserk. He leaps from his spot and jumps right into the pond. Jin-tae is utterly freaked out to see this lunatic diving into the water mindlessly. Just as he's grumbling about Kang's stupid actions and his insatiable hunger, someone appears behind him. This familiar voice asks him why he's alone and where his other partner is. Jin-tae turns around only to see a gang of goons towering over him, along with the same shady lady who seems to have called these bunch of hobos. He stutters as he looks at the massive guys and asks the lady if they're her friends. The girl just snickers along with her goons, making fun of how this pervy glasses guy fell into her trap. One of the thugs walks toward him, and the girl reminds Jen that this is Nova. And if he goes around flashing what he's got, it's no surprise he's going to get robbed by people like her. The thug grabs the poor boy who asks her why she tricked him, to which the lady replies that she hasn't tricked anyone. It's just the law of nature. The strong devour the weak. So he'd better hand over everything he has without making it hard for himself. Jin-tae tries to tell her that if she messes with him, it won't end well for her, and she's going to regret it later. But these guys aren't taking any crap. They just slap the poor guy so hard that his mind probably scrambles inside his head. The Goonies laugh among themselves at his miserable face and ask the girl about the big guy she mentioned earlier, wondering if he ran away after getting wind of what's about to go down. Then the other guy says that maybe he's hiding in the water because he's scared. Well, this guy is right that Kang is under the water, but Kang isn't hiding because he's scared. At that moment, a commotion erupts in the water, and it's our boy fighting off giant crocodiles all on his own. The gang of goons is left with their eyes popping out of their heads, watching in disbelief as they see Kang battling an alligator. Meanwhile, Kang is thinking about how amazing the ability he just got from that black orb is. The scene flashes back to when he first read the orb's abilities, and it turns out it can help him inherit one of the ogre's special powers. You can bet what this ability is all about, especially since there isn't a single scratch on his body after getting bitten by an alligator. The system promptly displays the explanation for his new skill, known as Ogre's Skin, which grants him skin tougher than steel. After giving those gators a proper slam dunk, he hoists them over his shoulder and climbs out of the pond with his dinner finally secured. As soon as he steps out, he's bewildered to see these uninvited guests because he only prepared enough food for two. Jin-tae quickly starts yelling at the top of his lungs, telling his friend to save him as these thugs are trying to steal their stuff. This leaves Kong devastated, not because he's scared of dealing with these guys, but because all he wanted was some crocodile meat, and it looks like he won't get it without trouble. Meanwhile, Jin-tae keeps bawling his eyes out, stating that these guys even slapped him hard across the face. It seems these fools just don't know when to quit, so they start questioning Kong and his power. They're confident that even if he's powerful, they can handle him because they have the numbers. But the one who's been barking the loudest is the first to get punched. That single hit knocks the guy so hard he literally goes flying away. This display of power leaves the once cocky woman pale, while Kong tells them to get ready to be whipped because he doesn't just solve his problems, he completely eliminates them, especially when they come in the way of his appetite. Standing in front of the blazing pyre made to roast and cook the tough alligator meat, Kong interrogated the scammers who had been extorting money from newbies. These thugs belonged to an unsavory organization arrogantly called the Dragon Turtle Faction. Even if it was a 5 versus 1, the goons were no match for the barbarian. They had to choose between being beaten within an inch of their life or some unpleasant bruises in exchange for spilling the beans. Seeing as the thug sitting up front seemed to be the spearhead of the group, Kong asked if he was the leader. The thug slyly smiled and simply answered that he was not the leader of the faction. That prestigious title belongs to their boss, the one and only John Yong-gu. He is widely considered the strongest fighter in the area. He has a massive demon back tattoo that strikes fear in the hearts of his enemies. The witch that initiated the scam bloated that Kong and Jin-tae are in trouble now. She fully believes that their boss is at the apex of power with all the stat stones he has extorted. Kong just listened to the witch ramble while taking a massive bite out of the cooked alligator meat. Since the boss of this faction sounds quite problematic, Kang's barbarian blood boiled for action. The thugs almost threw up all at once at the sight of the beefcake tearing into alligator meat and skin using his teeth. It was both impressive and disgusting to look at. Kong was even kind enough to give the thugs an alligator head for dinner, but they might not be in the mood to eat something so exotic. The barbarian simply wanted the 5 to lead the way. With his stomach filled back up, it's time to see this infamous Yong-gu. The Yong-gu faction headquarters is situated in a clearing in the middle of the woods where multiple tents are set up to build a little community. The peaceful night was interrupted by the sounds of Yong-gu faction fighters hitting the ground. If even the small bosses of the faction got taken out with just one punch, then the entire headquarters is in trouble. Kong was just treating these first fights as a warm-up as the alligator meat in his belly started to digest. He usually breaks down nutrients quickly, but alligator meat was too tough. As tensions continued to rise, the other faction members started pointing fingers at the youngest thugs who brought Kong over to the HQ. Jong-do, the de facto leader of the thugs, was berated by the elders for bringing over such an enemy to their base. Now that Jong-do and his gang are being treated as traitors, they are practically screwed no matter who wins. Kong flexed his vocal muscles and screamed a challenge to Yong-gu to come out of hiding and fight the beef out like real men. He continued taunting the boss and eventually got a lazy response as one of the tent curtains opened up. Jin-tae looked at the behemoth that came out of the tent and turned pale in horror. The boss that they've heard so much about has finally come out, and he looks even bigger than Kong. These are some Baki the Grappler bodies. Dragon Turtle Faction's boss, the Dragon Turtle himself, Jeongu, joined the fray as he annoyedly asked who dared to mess with his boys. Kong stepped forward to size up the competition. He was quite pleased to see the head honcho face to face. But in Jong-gu's eyes, Kong is just a green boy who can't even string creative insults. The barbarian clapped back, stating that being old is not something to brag about. A newbie extortionist is just a 2-bit scammer. Yong-gu did not wait for any speeches to conclude. He immediately went straight for the uppercut on Kang's jaw. The boss complained that kids these days have no idea how this new world works. This is a place where running your mouth carelessly can get you slaughtered. Surprisingly, Kong wholeheartedly agreed with the sentiment. He firmly believes that in this new world, the one with the stronger fist is the adult in the room. He caught and neutralized the vicious uppercut with his bare hand. Yong-gu retreated and laughed in amusement. No one had ever managed to block his punches, so his interest in Kong grew. Since he likes the young man so much, he proposes a bet where if he wins, Kong must surrender as an underling. The boss even sweetened the deal with the promise of a second-in-command position. Kong quickly agreed, but also added his own stipulation. If he wins, he wants to take those 5 thugs who tried to rob them earlier. Yonggu could not understand why the strange young man would demand such a ridiculous request on his own. With the bets placed on the table, it was time for some more action as Kong charged in with his muscles flexed. The punch quickly made contact with Yonggu's stomach. From the sound and impact alone, the power can be felt. Much to his surprise, the boss wasn't hurt. He even mocked Kong for coming in without warning. Maybe kids these days have no more romance in their bones. They just want to get right into it. Jin Tae observed from the sidelines along with the others. He had never seen his friend's fist get blocked and tanked like that. Yonggu revealed the reason why the boss is practically immortal in this place. He has eaten a total of 12 stat stones. To make matters worse, more than half of what he consumed were strength stat stones. At his current level, he is as durable as an ogre's skin. The boss holds that achievement close to his heart. His skin is almost at a comparable level to an ogre's. But then why in the hell are the barbarian's fists still getting through defenses and piling damage? Kong has never met someone this tough and challenging since his fight with the ogre. Slowly, both fighters start to acknowledge each other's strength. Yonggu chose to disengage and catch a breather using the space created. The boss tormented that Kang's punches felt ticklish like that of a kid, but inside he felt humiliated. Blaming the arrogant brat for bringing all this chaos, Yonggu charged in while demanding Kang's death. Finally, the final clash boils down to a direct collision of hardened fists. The so-called dragon turtle started wincing in pain before the worst even began. The nails in his fist that collided with Kang's started peeling off as the bones in his hands got crushed and bent in a painful fashion. While the boss has artificially raised his strength and durability through scam orbs, Kong has the real deal, the ogre's skin skill. The ability only procs when the user is struck. It's a good thing that Yonggu was dumb enough to fight him with bare fists. Kong is literally turning in the Incredible Hulk. He grabbed the frog by the throat and Yonggu tried his hardest to break free. While continuing the choke, Kong raised his other fist and warned the boss to grit his teeth hard for the next attack. If he doesn't, he might actually bite his tongue off in the process. The rest of the Dragon Turtle faction saw their boss being pushed to the back foot and wanted to jump in to assist, but a certain someone won't let any funny business happen. Zhang Du and his thugs blocked their former teammates, asserting that everyone should respect a fair fight. But if they still insist on interfering, Zhang Du wouldn't mind getting his hand dirty. Knowing that Zhang Du is a troublesome opponent, the pathetic role-players resorted to cursing Zhang Du out for betraying the faction. Zhang Du corrected them. He has always been the type of person who pledges his allegiance to the strongest. If he's going to be labeled as a traitor, he might as well go all in on that monstrous Kong. The commotion was interrupted by a flying bag of bleeding meat in the shape of the faction's boss. The big body meteor was on track to land in Zhang Du in the gang's position. Thankfully, they managed to dodge and let gravity do the rest of the work for Kong. Knowing that he is undoubtedly cooked, Yonggu stumbled over his words and begged for help from anyone. Before anyone could come and save his ass, Kang's massive frame had already taken to the skies for the final part of the fight. The clenched fist, which seemingly carried the weight of the world, stopped inches away from breaking the dragon turtle's face. Kong sighed in defeat. Just when he thought he finally met someone mildly interesting, he turned out to be a pathetic little boss baby begging for his life like a worm. A few minutes later, every supply and valuable items in the Dragon Turtle faction's coffers were yoinked and bagged by Kong and friends. They've practically emptied out the base camp. With their business in this place done, Kong has already set his sights on another adventure. Before they could leave, Yonggu humbly asked a question. Kong was annoyed, but he played along. No one in the Dragon Turtle faction had ever seen Kang's face around the area before, so everybody was curious about what organization he was from. The question just confused Kong. He doesn't have an organization or anything like that. He's just a normal high school sophomore student after all. While finalizing their preparations for departure, Jong-do took the opportunity to mend his relationship with Kong, thanking the young man for graciously taking his group in. Kong was taught at a very early age that the way of the barbarian is to grow stronger through endless battle. Now he finally got his first underlings, but some of his parts are still weak. In that fleeting final moment against the boss, he actually hesitated to go through with the attack. If his father had seen Kong do that, he would have been disappointed. Even after the fight is over, he is still fuming at the fact that he did not go for the decisive kill to take the conniving bastard's head. Kong noticed Jintai and called him over, referring to his longtime friend as commander. Jintai was supposed to manage and instruct the new additions to the team, but was way too enamored by his new commander title. Mr. Glasses over here was on cloud 9 at the thought of being called the commander. With everything settled at the camp, Kong is itching to get some more action, so he decides on their next destination on his own. Jintai can faintly see a silhouette from afar, but Kang's sharp instincts are telling him to charge forward. He reckoned that if they can go beyond their next destination, they can become a lot stronger. Jintai did not like the sound of that at all because Kang's new target is the dark and unsettling giant pyramid sanctuary. The next day, Kong praises everyone for doing a good job installing the tents. He orders them to maintain the tents and explains that he's planning on going over the river for today. One of the minions wonders if his boss is already aiming to subdue the new continent, even though no one has ever tried it before. He questions when the boss plans to return. Kong shares that he hasn't thought about coming back yet and thinks they should return when it's time to teleport back to Earth. His minion tells him the fastest portal is going to appear in 4 days. He explains that a portal opened today. Portals open after every 5 days, and 1 day on Earth is equal to 5 days on this world. Jintai is relieved to learn it works like a cycle. He's already tired and can't imagine himself staying on the barbaric planet all the time. Kong decides they should come back after 3 days and believes he should bring his grandpa with him when he comes back next time since it's dangerous to leave him alone in the apocalyptic world. He's impressed by the useful information and orders the minion to state his name. The guy anxiously introduces himself as Jong-do, but Kong completely ignores his words and starts calling him number 1. Jong-do tries to clarify, but gets ignored. The protagonist begins using numbers to address 5 siblings. They all become annoyed, but are too scared to say anything. The girl calls it bullshit and tries telling the boss she has a name, but he replies back with eyes filled with anger and questions if she doesn't agree with his opinion. She instantly folds and assures him it's nothing. All the siblings wish their boss a safe journey. Kong smiles as he proudly tells his friend he acted that way because he struggles to remember names. Jintai smiles and replies he already knew it. As they begin their journey, Jintai is surprised to see the boat his friend crafted. The system displays that Kong has gained experience in crafting. Despite getting more experience, he feels disappointed by the boat's slow speed and ends up getting frustrated. He quickly ties a rope on the boat and attaches it with his own muscular body. Jintai gets annoyed. He tells him to just sit down and be patient, but Kong ignores his words and replies that he's not able to hold back anymore. The guy jumps in head first inside the river filled with crocodiles without hesitation. Jintai is irritated by his behavior and requests that he hold back. The protagonist starts swimming with full power while ignoring all the crocodiles. The boat starts to move faster, which surprises Jin. He's amazed by his friend's adaptability and admits he's nothing in comparison. Jintai recalls his friend making him the commander of the whole unit and becomes determined to perform better instead of just running away. They both reach the huge wall known as the Pyramid Sanctuary. The system shows they need 2,000 coins for some sort of activation. Jintai reads the system instructions carefully and believes he's seeing such a thing for the first time. Kong becomes excited to collect the 2,000 coins and decides they should start moving, but his friend stops him and suggests they should explore and collect coins separately. Our boy is surprised to hear this, but he explains that ever since the apocalypse began, he hasn't contributed anything to the team and has been clinging to Kong all this time. So for once, he wants to try and do things alone without anyone's help. Kong agrees, and they start exploring solo. After the sun almost sets, our boy continues fighting ostrich dinosaurs while finding coins. He begins to enjoy fighting against monsters, but suddenly, a dinosaur tries to attack him from behind. The guy becomes angry and instantly kills the monster with brute strength. After he's done taking care of all the beasts, Kong decides to finally stop as he believes he has collected enough coins. Suddenly, one of the ostrich dragon's bodies starts glowing and a huge purple ball comes out of it. Kong notices what's happening and grabs the purple bead. The system shows it's a skill stone called Throw. He reads the information and understands that it lets him throw something with more strength or speed. He's happy to receive a new skill and suddenly recalls his friend Jin-tae. Kong hopes he's doing well. The sun finally sets. Somewhere else inside the jungle, Jin-tae spots a dinosaur and starts screaming to grab its attention. The ostrich dinosaur begins chasing after him. He quickly runs and hides behind a tree, hoping his trap works against the monster. As the dragon closes in, he quickly pulls the ropes, trapping it within them. The monster starts screaming, but Jin-tae doesn't give it any time to run away and quickly uses a dagger to finish it off for good. The dragon's head bleeds out as it finally dies. Jin-tae is relieved, but realizes monster hunting is extremely hard for him. He admits his friend would have destroyed multiple monsters in no time if he were in this situation. Jin-tae feels happy he decided to carve a dagger out of crocodile bones. He gets up with determination and feels positive he can hunt without his friend's assistance. Jin-tae believes he can hunt more using the production method. Out of nowhere, an orc lumberjack appears behind him and attacks the boy with its huge club. Despite not seeing the attack coming, Jin-tae is able to barely dodge in time. He calls it insane and believes the orc monster is definitely as strong as his friend, Kong. The orc doesn't give him any time to react and rushes forward to finish Jin-tae. The boy realizes he's about to die, but suddenly a stone comes flying at the orc and hits its face. The huge muscle-head monster falls down in a single attack, surprising Jin-tae. He wonders who threw the stone. The protagonist appears and tells his best friend to not worry. Kong used the new skill called Throw to destroy the orc with one hit. Kong is relieved to finally find his friend and expresses how worried he was. They start camping in the woods. And as they cook the ostrich dinosaur's meat, Jin-tae shares that this was his first time facing the monsters alone, and he believes he is still not capable of fighting them. But his friend tries to cheer him up and motivates him by saying he can definitely grow stronger in the future if he keeps training. Hearing such words, Jin-tae questions if he's talking to the same Kong he knows. The protagonist praises Jin-tae for his progress so far after coming to this new world and shares that he's a barbarian, so he's supposed to be different from a normal human. Jin-tae is surprised to hear the word barbarian and asks Kong to elaborate more. He's shocked Jin-tae didn't know already and repeats that he's a barbarian. The Four Eyes is taken aback and question if the protagonist is from a savage nation. He remembers his friend always performed feats that didn't make sense as a human. Kong asks if he didn't know he was a barbarian. Four Eyes doesn't understand how he'd know such a thing. Kong agrees with him and admits there's no way of knowing if he doesn't talk about it himself. Jin-tae expresses his shock, and Kong assures him to be proud of his progress since there's no need for him to compare himself with a barbarian. He makes it clear that they're both completely different people. The next day, they both arrive at the Pyramid Sanctuary and become excited to activate it. After using the 2,000 coins, the system shows that the Pyramid Sanctuary has been activated. They both receive rewards for the activation and their inventory gets updated. Jin-tae starts smiling as he sees the updated inventory. He wonders if it's something similar to a subspace. The protagonist believes compensation is different depending on the number of coins collected. They both receive the sanctuary's blessing, and their recovery rate becomes double for the next 24 hours. Jin-tae starts feeling lighter and realizes his fatigue is slowly fading away. He becomes excited and thinks he can level up his strength with such perks. He becomes determined to do things alone and believes it's time for him to gain more strength. All of a sudden, Kong notices the army of orc monsters behind them. Jin-tae starts stressing and anxiously clings to his friend for protection, but the protagonist pushes him back and believes he should fight to protect himself now given that he received new perks. Jin-tae is surprised by his words. Kong assures him not to be afraid as he has a barbarian by his side. He decides to take care of all the orcs alone and suggests his friend handle the one they defeated earlier. Kong doesn't waste a single second and jumps in to attack the group of monsters. Jin-tae tries to stop him as he wants them both to fight together. An orc attacks the protagonist with a spear. He's able to easily dodge it and believes it's not a fair fight if they're aiming to defeat an unarmed guy with weapons. He grabs the spear-wielding orc and slams him on the ground. Kong picks up the spear to make it a fair fight. An orc sneaks up on him from behind and tries to attack Kong with its huge club. He realizes he won't be able to dodge and becomes frustrated. Jin-tae jumps in to save his friend and makes it clear that the orc from earlier is his opponent. The monster becomes angry. Four Eyes bravely challenges the primitive brute head-on. The orc hits its club in his stomach. Jin-tae tries to defend himself, but the orc keeps hitting him persistently. His whole body starts to hurt. Four Eyes thinks he's about to lose his life, but all of a sudden his body starts glowing. And the system shows that due to the blessing granted by the sanctuary, his recovery rate has doubled. Jin-tae is relieved to have the blessings on his side and believes he can go another round against the monster. The orc attacks him, but he's able to dodge this time and becomes determined not to give up, even if the monsters are scary. He decides to live up to his barbarian friend's expectations and stands his ground against the monster, but suddenly the orc lands a strong punch to his face, sending the boy flying away. He hits a tree, and as he tries to get up, Jin-tae admits he should have been more careful instead of solely relying on the blessings of the sanctuary. After getting hit multiple times, Jin-tae becomes confident he can see through its attack patterns now. He charges towards the orc and is able to predict the monster is going to attack him with a downward strike. The monster acts just as he predicted. Jin-tae dodges the club and closes in. He aims for the orc's head and attacks it with his crocodile bone dagger he crafted earlier. He's able to land the hit successfully, and the orc finally falls down to the ground and dies. Jin-tae starts celebrating his victory. Seeing his awesome fight, Kong praises the Four Eyes and admits he has gotten stronger. Jin-tae shares that he's slowly getting used to fighting monsters. He thinks Kang's feats are impressive, as well as how he single-handedly defeated all the spear-wielding orcs like it's nothing. Kong notices a system notification. It displays that he has obtained a skill known as Spear Mystery since he already has a deep understanding of spear techniques. Kong smiles and believes he has unlocked a new skill because he was fighting with a stolen spear. He shares the news with his friend and thinks it's the same as how he figured out crafting earlier. He has learned that he can gain skills just by using new weapons. Kong becomes excited to learn more and asks his friend if he has recovered. Jin-tae notices his excitement and wonders if he's already planning on fighting more monsters. The protagonist points towards the footprints the orcs from earlier created and assumes they can find the orc hideout if they follow the footprints. He plans on gathering more weapons besides spears. After a while, they finally reach the orc lumberjack village. Two men beside them hide in the bushes as they observe the orcs from above. They think the orcs look pretty savage and recall that the orcs are the reason why their army still hasn't successfully taken over the continent yet. The men think they're the first to discover the orcs' base and believe they deserve a reward for it. They decide to head back and report everything to their boss. But as they're about to leave, someone puts a hand on their shoulder, startling both of them. Kong reveals himself and orders them to stay quiet. The men recognize their boss, and he wonders why they look so different. The guys share that they're out scouting in the enemy territory, so they're trying to blend in as much as possible. One of them believes if the monsters spot them, they will surely lose their lives. He advises Kong to head back and leave the enemy territory as it would be difficult even for someone like him to face so many monsters at once, especially the orc chief. The men point towards the orc boss and believe they'll need whole company-sized manpower to deal with such a powerful monster. Kong understands what they're trying to say, but becomes excited as he sees the axe in the chief's hands. He gets fired up to make the weapon his and jumps into the enemy territory bravely with Jin-tae on his side despite getting multiple warnings from his minions. In a few minutes, Kong is able to take care of all the orc monsters. And as he finally comes face to face with the orc chief, he removes his shirt and advises Jin-tae to rest as he wants to handle the boss monster alone. The protagonist starts blabbering out the words he heard from the orc monsters. Jin-tae wonders if he learned orc language while fighting. Kang admits he's making things up and recalls that the monsters have been repeating these words the whole time. The chief screams in rage and finally attacks the protagonist with his axe, but he's able to easily dodge it and lands a kick as well. Kang realizes his kick had no effect against the thick armor. Seeing another axe attack coming his way, he admits even his ogre skin won't be able to save his life if he gets hit by the axe head-on. In such a situation, the protagonist decides to just steal the axe from the orc. He grabs its arm and forcefully takes away the huge axe. The orc starts screaming in fear. Kang thanks him for the new weapon and uses the new axe to smash its head with all his might. The orc dies and the system displays that his axe-wielding technique has improved. He has obtained a skill known as axe proficiency. His minions are stunned to see him win and call the protagonist crazy for taking on the chief alone. Jin-tae becomes relieved and starts celebrating their victory. The minion realizes his boss is an amazing person and thinks he's more like a monster. The guy becomes worried and believes such a monster shouldn't be left free. Kang stands proud after winning the battle against the chief orc. The system shows that he has acquired a new item known as the Orc Chief's Great Axe.